Badenoch and Strathspey Area Committee meeting taking place in Canusie Courthouse and also online this morning, Monday, 3rd of November. Read out a recording notice regarding webcasting. Please note that this is a formal public Highland Council meeting and has been recorded and will be uploaded for public access via the Council's YouTube site. You are therefore reminded not to make specific references to individuals and to only disclose information which is in the public domain. I also remind members that the chat function is to be used only for placing motions and amendments. Members participating remotely should activate the hand function when wishing to speak. This function will be monitored. Members Lobban, Coburn and Jones are in the Canusie Courthouse, and Councillor Bruce is online. Good morning, John. We have no apologies for absence. Members, do we have any declarations of interest or transparency statements? No, we have none this morning. Now, item 3 on our agenda is the Police Area Performance Report, and I'd like to welcome Inspector Craig Johnson this morning to speak to this report. Good morning, Inspector Johnson.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, councillors, and thanks for the opportunity to present the Area Committee report just now. As you will know, the figures in the report now include statistics from Skye, Lochaber and Badenoch, Strathspey and Nairn. As usual, I'll go through some of the key aspects of the report and we'll be happy, of course, to take any questions you may have in relation to it. In relation to road safety and road crime, there's been an increase, unfortunately, from 6 to 9 fatalities compared with the same period last year. In relation to Badenoch and Strathspey specifically, however, there have not been any fatalities in our area. You may have the tragic accident on the 15th of September in your mind, which happened in the Slough area, but in terms of boundaries, that was out with the Badenoch and Strathspey area. As you will see, the number of speeding and drink driving offences continue to increase, and that also includes the number of drug driving offences, which increases as well. And that is a result of the continuing efforts we are taking to deal with those to try and reduce or have an impact on the reduction of the number of deaths on our roads. In relation to antisocial behaviour, disorder and violence, you'll see there's been an increase in assaults. This is largely down to groups of youths in Fort William and Nairn who several months ago were responsible for numerous instances of antisocial behaviour. Although those crimes did not occur in this area, I'm pleased to report that owing to significant targeting of those issues, the various use have variously been dealt with and occurrences have reduced. You will see that serious assaults have reduced significantly over the period and detection rates are high, which is welcome news. I'm pleased to be able to report that the number of drug possession cases have increased significantly over the period. It's been a cause of frustration to myself that largely through a lack of sufficient intelligence and having to focus resources elsewhere, we've often struggled in that area. I can report, however, that there's been a number of promising increases over the last few months, and I hope that the foundations are in place for this to continue. In relation to acquisitive crime, on the whole, this remains relatively stable with the exception of frauds, which is obviously increasing. That, however, follows a national trend, unfortunately, in regard to that crime type. In relation to protecting vulnerable people, you'll see that the number of crimes being dealt with in that regard, as well as the hugely time-consuming missing person inquiries, have all increased. Hate crime is probably increasing due to a number of factors, the police encouraging vulnerable groups to report these, but also likely that current issues around the world are having an impact on those crime types. It's unclear why the number of domestic crimes have increased. The number of 57 appears to be as a result of increases right across the South Highland area, including Badenoch, Strathspey. That is a brief summary overview of the various crime types, and obviously happy to take any questions at all from yourselves.
Hey, thank you for the report, Inspector Johnson. Members, do we have any questions? Councillor Coburn.
Craig, thank you, Inspector, thank you very much for the detail of the report. I want to, first of all, commend the teams, because when you have increases in detection, it means that there's increase in police activity in trying to detect these. So I want to acknowledge the work that the teams are doing. I'm concerned about the big increase in fraud, having come across a few people recently myself who have been subject to this. Are we in a position, or are Police Scotland in a position to monitor social media regarding some of these scams and fraud crimes, because they can be quite devastating? And they make people very wary, because we're in an economy down here where everybody is expected to use a card to tap and pay for something, and that is really increasing anxiety amongst a lot of our people. The hate crime thing is really worrying, and you rightly referred to the geopolitical challenges that we're all very aware of. Have we got resource to do more education for some of our young people? Because it's not just young people that can put things in social media, but we've got an age group where they feel that they can hide behind an anonymous name or nom de plume on social media. How are Police Scotland resourced to monitor that? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. In relation to frauds, it's by far one of the most difficult crime types to investigate. Like yourself, unfortunately, I have personally been targeted through text messages, WhatsApp messages, various types of phishing type scams, and it is so common. Unfortunately, those who are most often the victim are the most vulnerable people in our societies, because they believe that the text message that they are getting is actually from the son or parent asking for money to be sent, for example. Or having been on over the weekend, I've been involved in inquiries where this extortion type frauds have been used or attempted to be used to our often young males, and it's really difficult. However, our prevention and intervention officers play a key role in this, not least to try and help us investigate, but probably as important as anything else, to try and ensure that the shame in some instances of being a victim of these crimes, that there's support mechanisms in place. And it's really that's an important aspect, but it's also very time or resource consuming. So that's another aspect to it as well. It is really difficult in terms of the card and tap that you rightly mentioned. Thankfully, that is not something in this area that we are encountering that often, which would not be the case in large cities or on tubes, for example, where they go about with card machines and they will tap people's cards. So thankfully, that's not something or an area of fraud that we are susceptible to yet, but it's something that we are aware of can happen. Really difficult, and unfortunately is the most vulnerable in our societies, which are often the victim. Lots of work being done by prevention intervention officers to try and counter that, but it's a national issue which we are which I suspect will only continue, because those who do this find new ways and new scams to target people with. In terms of the hate crime, again, prevention and intervention is a huge part of that. And on every occasion where there are victims of that, our prevention and intervention officers engaged with the victims to try and provide some reassurance. It's one of the it's one of our priority crimes in terms of dedication of resources to identifying those responsible. But as you rightly point out, those who hide behind a keyboard find it all too easy to target people in that way. And it is increasing because of the geopolitical situation. We do, in terms of available resources, we are strapped right across the front line, and it is difficult to prioritise, to give particular attention to every area, but hate crime is an area where we are doing our utmost to prevent and detect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Inspector Johnson. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask Councillor Johnson, sorry, Mr. Johnson, about the harm prevention officer. You've got one and also a huge area to cover. Can you give me an outline of his activities?
Yeah, so the primary focus of their activities is to deal with serious organised crime, which is unfortunately making its way more readily to our area, not specifically Badenoch and Strathspey, but particularly Inverness, and it does overlap into the surrounding areas such as Nairn, given how the distance between those two areas. So cuckooing, as you'll all know, is an issue, and that would be a primary role that they would undertake to help support vulnerable people, vulnerable drug users in the area who are often threatened to take drug dealers from, whether it's Liverpool, Manchester, London, other areas, into their homes and be given drugs to with the proviso that they can sell drugs from their houses. So that's probably the main focus of harm prevention officers. But Councillor, you're absolutely right in pointing out that they've got a huge area to cover, and there is very limited resource and funding to deal with that area of business.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Inspector. Councillor Loveman.
No real specific points, all on the fact that I think it's a retrograde step to produce such widespread statistics for South Area Command. You know, in this area committee, we're only interested in what's happening in Badenoch and Strathspey. So it's very difficult to see what's happening locally if we have such a widespread report, especially as communities don't actually regularly get reports from local police officers nowadays. I think that's definitely something that maybe Police Scotland want to reconsider.
Thank you,
I totally take that on board. I understand where you're coming from, and in order for me to prepare for this meeting, it causes me additional work because I need to go and find out that additional stats, Councillor. So I completely accept and understand where you're coming from.
And one really minor point about the deaths in the area, you know, the boundary between us and I suppose it will be Inverness South can only be metres, so must have been almost on the boundary. So I think it's quite legitimate that you report that here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Loveman. Thank you, Inspector. Councillor Bruce, do you wish to come back in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, the influx of people to Cameron Barracks, is this something we should be discussing here, or is it out with our area?
I'd suggest it's maybe out with our area and maybe not for us to discuss it. Badenoch and Strathspey Area Committee this morning, Councillor Bruce.
Fair enough, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Inspector Johnson, thank you very much for the report. I just had a couple of things. First of all, good news on the drugs offences, and well done to all of your officers for that. And obviously, as you say, your frustration about local intelligence, etc. And you have told us before how difficult it is with stretched resources. And we've also talked about before about community policing and officers attending community council meetings. I know it's extremely difficult, and I think it happens more in Strathspey, where some officers live within the communities. It doesn't happen so much in Badenoch at all, unfortunately, and it's it's not their fault. It's nobody's fault because, you know, it just doesn't work in with their shifts. And if they are on shift, then obviously they can be busy on other jobs. But so there is that side of it, that there's maybe, you know, not so much tie up with the communities, which is with your control. It's just with stretched resources. And I do have one other question actually, which is not related to this, but do the mobile patrols in Badenoch and Strathspey, do the police vehicles, do you carry defibrillators?
No, not as a matter of routine. In other areas near us, we've had defibrillators gifted to us by charities, but that's not the case in Badenoch and Strathspey. That said, roads policing, and which aren't based here, but they do provide a high presence here. They do carry, as do the armed response vehicles, which in all honesty aren't here that very often. They do also carry, but divisional officers in Badenoch Strathspey do not carry.
Is that something that we could maybe take up offline, possibly, to see if there's anything could be done about that? Because obviously we do have public access defibrillators in Badenoch and Strathspey and in Aviemore, but if they are taken at any time, then obviously that's very productive to where they're going to, but it's possibly counterproductive if that cabinet is then empty for a while. So is that something that we could offer to take up offline?
Absolutely. That it would be amazing if there was funding to provide defibrillators for our response vehicles, and every officer would be delighted to have them on board.
Okay, Inspector Johnson, thank you very much. Councillor Colburn would like to come back in.
Sorry, first of all, I want to commend our wildlife officer, because I think they do an amazing job. But I notice again in this report there's an increase in wildlife offences and domestic animals as well. Again, is there a pattern to this? You know, are we getting a feel as to why this is happening? And my second and last question is, there's also been an increase in breach of bail conditions. And again, is there a reason for that? Is it the same people, or what's the intelligence around that?
So in terms of wildlife crime, I noticed the increase as well, and I don't have the reason for it. There's nothing that I'm aware of in terms of specific things, but I will do a bit more digging into that, councillor, and I'll get back to you with the specifics of what they are in Badenoch Strathspey, what the and what and where the crime types. In relation to bail offences, yeah, there was another one in our area yesterday, and that, along with a missing 14-year-old, is where all our resources are focused on this morning. So that's kind of going back to what you were saying, Councillor Loban, about ability to attend meetings and so on is really challenging because of what we come into each day, or not knowing what we might come into each day. It may be, and this is perhaps unscientific, but it may be a case of the pressures that the criminal justice system is facing, that there are unquestionably less people being remanded and more people being given bail. So because there's more people on bail as opposed to in prison, for understandable reasons, there may be more people breaching it, but that's perhaps unscientific, but that's an observation I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Colburn. Thank you, Inspector Johnson. Thank you very much for the report, and thank you for answering our questions.
Thank you, Chair.
Will we see you in Highland Cops anytime soon?
Not me personally, no.
Okay, thank you very much. See you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. On to item 4 on our agenda, and I would like to introduce, I hope I'm getting your title out, Area Group Commander Carla Stevenson, who will be speaking to the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Area Performance Report this morning. Before we go to that, I'd just like to say a thank you to our former, I think, local senior officer, Nick Nethercott, who has moved on to pastures new and had normally been presenting these reports. And I'd like to thank Nick for his work with us over the last couple of years. He's always been very amenable and been very good at attending our meetings. So thank you for that, and good luck in his new post. And I will pass over to Commander Stevenson. I hope I'm getting that right. Good morning, Commander Stevenson.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody. My name's Carla Stevenson. I'm the Group Commander for the Highland Central area, which covers your area. And I'd also like to just reiterate as well my thanks as well to Nick Nethercott, who has, like as you say, moved on. He's done a tremendous job for the area. So yes, thank you for mentioning that. It's very welcome. So the report I'm presenting today for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service is for the Badenoch and Strathspey area for quarters 1 and 2. I'll go straight into the figures. There was 3 accidental dwelling fires, which were thankfully all classed as low severity, and it's very welcome to see that this is below the 3-year average for the area, and as a result of our continuing engagement in prevention and working with partnership agencies as well. Also delighted to report that there was no fire fatalities within the area during this time period, although we did have 1 fire casualty, thankfully with minor injuries. Moving on to deliberate fires, we've got a figure of 25 deliberate fires in this period, which is above the 3-year average. Of those, 22 were related to outdoor fires. And looking into the reason for the spike and increase, it looks as though it could be simply a lower tolerance of this kind of activity, given the busy period that we have had with wildfires, more people being aware because of the information and social media presence and coverage of the wildfire, and hence more reports, as well as partnership working with Police Scotland and the local rangers who were doing patrols. But that is something that we will continue to monitor. For unwanted fire alarm signals, something we call UFAS, we attended 30 within this period, which is comparable and is related mostly to sleeping accommodation. And again, as a result of our UFAS policy, engagement does continue with the sort of repeat offenders to identify causes and to make sure those numbers are kept low and reduced where possible. For special services, 6 road traffic collisions, again, welcome that's below our 3-year average, and no fatalities, although as the inspector did mention, we had something just out with the border, so it's not classed within this area. And within the area, we had 8 related injuries, of 3 went to hospital. So again, our prevention teams are working hard with that. We do go around schools. We're just doing that just now in terms of road traffic collision education for those that are about to go for driving lessons and so on. We do older driver virtual reality schemes and so on, which is all very welcome and keeps our team busy. For prevention, prevention is better than cure, something that we do advocate and work hard to. So we've done 32 home fire safety visits within the area in this period, and that's a combination of efforts from both our on-call firefighters and members of the community action team. We've got 22 audits that were completed as well within the area, and then also we've also got a large social media presence now. All our local stations are engaging well, which is creating conversations. We're getting out and about in the community, and because of this and because of the busy period we've had, it is starting to have effect. So I just also, because of the incidents that were covered in this time period, like to just say thank you as well to the crews for their hard work in this period, but also to the landowners, estates, gamekeepers, and also the local Badenoch and Strathspey community for their help and support during this period. It was a very good team effort and fantastic to see, something that will continue for years to come. Happy for any questions.
Thank you very much for the report. Do we have any questions, members? Councillor Lovan.
Good morning. I think really, I suppose you need to highlight the fact that the deliberate fires are certainly reporting of them is on the increase. I think it's very concerning for the local communities. I realise there are many different reasons, but we're moving into, I suppose, a time where summers are going to be drier and longer, and deliberate outdoor fires is something we really all need to be concerned about. And really, just to make the point is, and I've done this many times in the past, just how much we appreciate and the public appreciate those who run into burning buildings when everyone else is running out. So thank you very much.
Your comments are appreciated. Like you say, this is something that we are monitoring. I think whilst it was unfortunate that the busy period it has heightened awareness. It is making sure that we're doing a lot of joint work with partners to have a focused approach on this, and the public, like I said, they've been absolutely fantastic. This period, obviously there is not a bylaw in place. Next year that will come into place, so we do welcome anything that will help to reduce this, but also we've done a lot of engagement with those that may perhaps do controlled burning, to making sure that they're informing our control room of the controlled burns, so we're not deploying resources unnecessarily, and that we can monitor trends as well. So yeah, great thanks to the Ranger service as well, who've been very proactive, and also they will continue to be with the bylaw next year, something like I say we will support.
Thank you, Councillor Lowen. Councillor Coburn.
Thank you, and thank you for delivering the report, and welcome to the First Area Committee. Good to have you on board. I think I just want to just congratulate the teams across BNS for the engagement work they've done over the summer. They've been at most community events, really appreciated, and they're known faces in many of our areas, and I think that's gone down really well, so thank you for that. Your virtual reality driving courses that you do, and what's the participation, and what's the scope to reach more people and engage with more people? I know that it will be personnel dependent on resource and time, but I think this is something that is really important, and I'd like us to look at how we can get a greater reach.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for your very kind comments there. Yeah, I'll start with the local crews are such an asset to the area, and it's fantastic to see them out there and the engagement and the lived experience. You know, they live and work in the area. They're so passionate. So I share the appreciation. I'm very proud of them. And we've also done the first Behind the Pager event at Aviemore Station, which was created and designed by the Watch Commander, Laura McCarty. That was a fantastic success, getting local employers into the station, as well as the crew's friends and family. And you know, it was such a touching and heartwarming event to say thank you for the dedication of the on-call. And as a result of that, that's helping recruitment and engagement, which also leads on to awareness of the services we provide, such as the virtual reality sort of training that you mentioned. That side of things is predominantly run with our community action team, so I'm happy if you don't have their contact to give that directly to you, but they're the kind of the advocates for all things prevention. They're the ones that deliver. Again, engagement with local crews can feed up the information to the community action team to target resources. Reports like this will help us target specific areas, demographics of people that would benefit this the most. As you're aware, we don't have infinite resources, so we do very much look at trends and prevention to target. So again, Councillor, if you have any groups in mind, please send them on to me. I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you off table.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bruce, do you wish to come in?
No, thank you. No, it's my hand up.
Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if I could say it or not. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what my colleagues have said. Thank you so much to the crews for all their hard work, and it is so much appreciated in our communities, and also for the great community engagement that has happened over the summer. I've been involved in some of that, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And the availability figures seem to be, you know, Aviemore 96%, Granted 97%, Canusi 85%. I mean, that's a huge commitment. So, you know, fantastic, and that should be recognised. Also, welcome your praise for the gamekeepers and the local estates, and you know, we're obviously very reliant on them with any of these wildfires. So thank you very much to yourself for for pointing that out, Commander Stevenson. Just on that, Nick Nethercott, the former local senior officer, have been doing a fair bit of work on Badenoch and Strathspey community asset register. do you know if that will be continuing and what stage that is at? And has, you know, is there liaison with, for instance, Cairngorm National Park and Highland Council about that? Because I'm not sure that it was particularly up to date recently.
Thank you, Councillor, again for your kind comments. So the Community Asset Register, yeah, that's open and live all year round and shared with other partner agencies. So that work that Nick started will absolutely continue. We're very keen to get the Community Asset Register kind of populated as fully as we could. Because of the use that was demonstrated this year of it, but also the dialogue with the Cairngorm National Park Authority is continuing. We're awaiting an invite to one of their landowner meetings to discuss the potential of it and how that they can help support it. However, it was a fantastic reassurance to see how many people came to assist at Granton. It was literally an army of gamekeepers and their equipment, and that's something that the car won't replace, but we're absolutely wanting the car to support it and enhance it. And again, something that we are promoting via social media, for example. It's not just equipment, it's knowledge, it's skills. There's such a wide variety of things, you know, from welfare facilities, etc. So we're very keen to promote it and let people support their community should they wish to do so.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Group Commander Stevenson. Really appreciate your attendance here this morning to speak to this report and to answer our questions so fully. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thanks from Station Commander Nick Nethercott. He's asked me to say thank you to the area and to yourselves for the support that you've also provided him during his tenure. So it was greatly appreciated, and look forward to continuing that in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you, members. Next item on our agenda is item 5, Housing Performance Report. And we'd like to welcome Christine Mackenzie to our first Badenoch and Strathspey Area Committee, I think. So welcome, Christine. And I'll hand over to you to speak to the report.
Good morning, thank you for having me along. So just a sort of brief overview of the report. The figures do speak for themselves. Rent arrears are year on year down. Q2 last year was higher than Q2 this year, so that's really positive to see. You will note there's a trend where from Q1 to Q2 that goes up. We're seeing that across all areas in Highland, and we are looking into a bit more detail and how to work out where that's coming from. Moving on to the percentages, so the annual rent due, again that percentage we are meeting that nicely. We're well below the benchmark for that one. And let's get past the banding, apologies. So with regards to the rent actions, you'll see that we've had minimal court actions initiated on that one, with only the one, and we've not completed any evictions. As a service, we don't want to be evicting any of our tenants. We want to work with them to sustain their tenancy, and the team do a stellar job of that. To note on the antisocial behaviour cases table here, there is an increase in the figures. This is reflected through the hard work of the team as opposed to an increase of antisocial behaviour. They are now actively recording their antisocial behaviour investigations much more thoroughly than has been in the past. So that reflects that increase in numbers. We're not actually seeing an increase in the antisocial behaviour we're having to manage within our properties. For homelessness, you'll note there is an increase in trend in presentations across the area at the moment. Again, reflected throughout Highland. This isn't just through Badenoch and Strathspey. That in turn is putting a little bit of pressure on the service as a whole. But the team are managing that the best they can. And then onto our allocations, I think the other tables speak for themselves. Over Q1, Q2, we had 21 allocations. The majority of those were to applicants from our homeless list. And as a sort of side note on that, all of those applications that were allocated properties, the 21, had a need to reside for the local area through various factors. I'm happy to take on any questions you may have.
Thank you, Christine. Members, do we have questions? Councillor Lowen.
Yeah, I think obviously the big problem is the homeless presentations. I think it's you know, the rise is really quite stark. This has been relatively even for the last couple of years, and now it's taken a really sharp increase. Is there any indication of any particular reasons why there's an increase?
So looking at the figures across Highland and across Scotland, that it seems to be the same across the board. I think it's fair to say that there is an increase of individuals presenting as homeless from private tenancies. And also the sort of big factor we have is relationship breakdowns, neither of which can be prevented. I think there's a lot of landlords, and again, facts and figures would need to be checked on that, who have decided not to be landlords anymore and are selling on their properties or having relatives move into their properties, which is resulting in those tenants having to source alternative accommodation, which isn't necessarily readily available in the community.
And also, when we look at the number of allocations completed, from my own personal point of view, it's really concerning that we haven't allocated a single house in Q1 and Q2 to anyone from the general list. I think that is really difficult for us to understand.
So I would have to go backwards and look into that to answer that fully for you, as to why. It's likely a case that the property type that was being allocated didn't meet the needs of an individual, but I can certainly look at that further and come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Councillor Coburn.
Thank you for the report, Christine. I like the way it's laid out. Just to follow on from Councillor Robin's last question there, I want to add to that it creates despair when people that are on the list and have been on the list for quite a period of time feel that they have got no chance. So it's a really difficult thing to handle, but I think we need to just be aware of that degree of anxiety when people are ever hopeful, particularly as we are doing and have done a lot of house building in Badenoch and Strathspey, and there is sometimes a bit of expectation as well. Regarding the housing, the presentations, you did, correct me if I'm wrong, say that we're in line with the Highland average, the number of single presentations. Is that seems to be quite an increase in trend in that, because it's quite a considerable percentage.
So yes, the pattern when we take the figures as Highland as a whole, it looks very similar across Highland for the presentations. And indeed across Scotland, the figures seem to that seems to be reflecting, obviously as a percentage when the numbers are smaller, and that's not to put shade on that the increase we have, the percentage can be quite deceiving when we're looking at lower numbers. So it's important that we note the sort of trend in the graph as well. And you'll see, I think that the full House and Property Committee should reflect that later this week.
And thank you, Chair. Final comment is that it's good to see the number of antisocial behaviour cases as low, but I think it's important that we continue to commend the teams that work with our tenants and not to let up in supporting tenants as to how to be good tenants, and it's an important thing. So I think we need to commend your team for the work that they do in that. Thank you.
Thank you, that's much appreciated.
Thank you. No, I'd just like to add to that. I mean, that we all know how difficult a job it is at times for members of your team, particularly for those who live in the local community, to be involved in allocations and dealing with homelessness. So we really appreciate the work that they do. So thank you very much for that. I think I touched on this with you the other day, Christine, about the perhaps some other housing agencies in dealing with antisocial behaviour, if they had reports, consistent reports of an antisocial tenant, they would maybe do doorstep meetings along with the police, you know, to, you know, possibly try to get to the bottom of it, whether, you know, if it was, you know, drug dealing or whatever. Is that something that that we could perhaps look at?
Absolutely. So I have been liaising with local police where I can up to this point to try and sort of build that positive relationship. I'm very consciously aware of the stretched resources that Police Scotland have as well. So I don't want to be having the team perhaps rely on that in an inappropriate measure, but we'll certainly be working towards building those relationships and doing joint visits where appropriate to do so.
Okay, thank you very much, Christine. Members, do we have any other questions or comments for Christine?
No, thank you very much, Christine.
Okay, thank you again, Christine. Really appreciate you coming along today and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, members. So moving on to item 6 on the agenda. Oh, are we happy to note that report?
Yes.
Sorry. Moving on to item 6 on the agenda, which is the Badenoch and Strathspey Area Place Plan Update, which has been a huge bit of work. And I will hand over to Lewis Hannah to speak to this report.
That's the chair. Good morning, members. Yeah, this report invites committee to adopt the Badenoch and Strathspey Area Place Plan. I should say that this plan does not set out to replace existing plans, of which there are numerous in Badenoch and Strathspey. Instead, it takes an indexing report format and aims to capture and present what common themes and priorities there are, to serve as a comprehensive document that reflects the aspirations of the community as well as statutory partners in terms of strategic and localised ambitions. And as I say, the intention of taking that approach to it is to avoid duplication, but conscious of quite how much consultation and engagement on the development plans has taken place across Badenoch and Strathspey, with voluntary action Badenoch and Strathspey, the Cairncroom National Park Authority and many other statutory partners as well. The themes in the report have been pulled together, as with most area place plans in Highland, under headings of people, police and prosperity. And within those headings, I've tried to pull out some of the main themes from the statutory partners plans, like the Cairncroom National Park, but also more importantly, the aspirations of the community through the community action plans that have been developed with communities, with voluntary action Badenoch and Strathspey. So they're all set out within the, or summarised within those headings. And in terms of how the plan will be used, it's going to provide a knowledge base, and it'll be able to hopefully provide a shared understanding of the local needs and opportunities. And I think critically it will help inform decisions on funding bids using ward funds as well as other funding sources for the area. And in terms of next steps, if the plan is adopted, the next step would be to develop an action plan that would set out short, medium and long-term priorities and look to find delivery partners and mechanisms for the individual plans that are prioritised in the action plan that will hopefully come next. And I'd be very keen to work with committee members on the development of that action plan to set out how we'll take the area place plan forward, as I say, if it's adopted. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis. Councillor Loveman.
Yeah, Lewis, thank you very much. It's a really huge piece of work here. But you know, one of the things that attracts me is the housing part of the paper, which I think is on page 61, if I can re-find it again. Yeah, to me, this is the sort of detail that we should be getting in our housing report, not just overall statistics of ups and downs in housing presentations, because this really gives you the in-depth detail of what the problem actually is. So I think that's really important. But I think what you just mentioned is the crux of the matter is, it's the next step. What are we going to do with this very comprehensive report, and what actions are we going to do, and what are we going to do about all this stuff? That's the big part of it. The big part of it is obviously huge amount of work in producing this, but let's not make it just a document that sits on somebody's desk for the next 5 years. Let's look at this in real in-depth detail and say, right, okay, that particular thing standing out, what are we going to do about it? And if you look at the housing one, you can immediately see the problem. So, and the rest of the report it gives you similar statistics. So it's a really good report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lovan. Councillor Coburn, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you for the report. Sorry, the wheels are turning very slowly this morning. I'm just a bit concerned that there is a lot of detail in this. I'm concerned with the link up with the district plan, but I think that is something that we will need to work on, because everything that is in this is what is needed. It's next steps and where we are in that journey, because some things are happening, some are not. So I think it's important, and it's important for our communities to understand what the district plan is and how it will affect them as well. But thank you for the report.
Yeah, of course, Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you for your comments, members. I'm very keen that this is a first iteration of the area police plan. It's my intention to refresh this hopefully annually or maybe every 18 months, just to make sure that it continues to reflect the priorities of communities and partners for the area. And Chair, Councillor Lubbock, thank you for your comments there. I think the report does, as you say, reflects large-scale priorities, strategic priorities for the area, as well as kind of some of the local ones. And in terms of that district plan, yeah, I did work with health colleagues in terms of what the health content should be, and they very kindly gave me their draft district plan content as it currently stands. So whenever we refresh the plan, the next iteration will hopefully contain a bit more detail around that. And the other health content that I was very grateful to get from health colleagues was their consultation outcome from the Borough Trust piece of work that they did fairly recently, which I thought very helpfully set out kind of community and statutory partner aspirations around health. So thank you for your comments, members.
Can I make one slight additional point? One of the big things that this points out, Lewis, is if you look at the percentage change in population, the population is increasing, but the population is increasing for those who are 65 years and over. If you look at the population of children coming through, it's actually falling through the floor.
Yeah.
And hence, you know, this makes a huge difference to schools, etc., etc. And okay, you know, parts of our area are basically retirement homes where people change their lifestyle, move to a cheaper area, retire here, etc. But we need to do something about increasing the working age population. And it's either that, or you will see schools that no longer have sufficient number of pupils there to keep them sustainable. So I think it's really serious.
So, I mean, I agree. I mean, you know, perhaps the market for population should not be the overall population, but the school roles, maybe that's what we should be looking at as to how, as to the trends in our population and how they. Hey, Councillor Coburn, come back in.
Yeah, following on from my colleagues as well, I think I would like in the next iteration is the small business as well, because if we're creating in small businesses, I think that was a really good thing for the area, and that would certainly assist with the demographic as well. We've got to make sure that we're seen to be an attractive place to come and open up business and provide business, family business.
Thank you. No, I mean, I'd just like to once again say thank you very much to Lewis and to Ewan McIntosh and co-authored the report as well. An awful lot of work in it, and as my colleagues have said, I mean, it's really, really, really interesting reading, and it's going to be a very useful tool going forward. Will this be sent out to community councils, or could we action that? Could we send it out to community councils?
Yeah, it's my intention to, when we hold the next community council forum, to take that there as an agenda item for them to comment on, and again, so that we can take their comments into the next iteration. But yeah, really keen to circulate it to them. Happy to do it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, as it is laid out in the report, but I think it's important maybe to try and get that message out there if there's anyone in the press or whatever involved to say that, you know, this dovetails with community action plans and with Cairngorm National Park plan, because sometimes people just see another report and another whatever survey, whatever. So, but I think it's a really good piece of work, and I think it's important that we say it is to dovetail with the other plans that are in place. So the committee is invited to consider and agree to adopt the Badenoch and Strathspey area place plan, using it as a tool to inform and support decision making about Badenoch and Strathspey. Agree to support and promote the plan where possible in terms of its consideration within other plans, strategies, development and funding opportunities across or impacting the Badenoch and Strathspey area, and note the next steps for progressing the work set out in the plan.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much, and thank you once again, Lewis.
Thank you, members.
Moving on now to item 7, so I have a short statement to read out item 7. This item is to be withdrawn pending further discussion between members and officers. Are members in agreement to withdraw this item?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Great. Thank you very much. That takes us up to item 8, which is ward discretionary budget, and I'll hand over once more to Lewis Hanna to speak to this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, as with previous area committees members, we've just got this as an item to note. It sets out what we have agreed in terms of ward discretionary fund applications since the committee last met. We have got 2 applications that have been successful. One was the KHS Highland Council, Easy High School, sorry, for the alternating wheelchair projects. They received £318, and also Strathspey for their October Fish Week this year at Lochedge Motorsports. They got £1,250 from the ward discretionary fund.
Okay, thank you. Do members have any comments or questions?
Other than the, I suppose, glib comment that ward discretionary funds are far too low.
Agreed. Okay. Thank you very much, members. Thank you, Lewis. Move on to item 9, and I think I see Ross Bartlett on screen there. This is an invitation to pay income from the council car parks, and I'd like to welcome Ross to Badenoch and Strathspey Area Committee, and I'll hand over to you to speak to this paper. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm just noticed I was reading the wrong meeting. So this is just a quick introduction into the report for the invitation to pay earmarked funds for a committee from the car parks in Badenoch and Strathspey. As you'll see in 5.2, the 3 car parks, the area committee earmarked funds are £2,546.51. And you know, this is earmarked for the financial year 24-25. Apologies for it being slightly later in the year than normal, but just with circumstances it was delayed catching up. If members have any questions, I will happily answer them.
Okay, thank you, Ross. First questions from Councillor Lobban.
Right, so really, I think it would be helpful also, although we don't necessarily get the income, it would be interesting to see the figures in years to come for the car parks we share with Forestland Scotland, and also the council's wholly owned car park in Aviemore, which is not invitation to pay, it's compulsory payment. So I think those figures would be interesting for us to see in years to come.
Yes. I can put that in. I can share that round if you want a comparison for 24-25. If you want me to send that round to members,
that would be good. And also the on-street parking income. It would also be interesting to see that.
I'll just do a wee sheet with all the parking income in the area if you like, and I can put in the Forestry Land Scotland figures for this year.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. Why is King Usey minus £361?
So yeah, I can pick that up. So all of the car park, the invitation to pay car parks have annualized costs. Bear with me 2 seconds. And the costs for that car park are higher than the income it generates. I'm just trying to pull it up. Bear with me 2 seconds because I can give you details.
I think we should stop.
The Canusi car park, what did it take in? Just around £2,500 last year. quite a big car park. So there's a £53 per bay per year. We call it maintenance, but it's maintenance and servicing cost that comes off, and £400 for the ticket machine per year, along with kind of card transaction fees, which for that car park last year were about £167,000. So not too much on the transaction fees. So that's where that kind of negative balance comes from.
Right. Thank you.
So the total costs were about 3,100.
Is there anything we can do? Sorry, is there anything we can do to turn this figure around?
I think we need to look at the signage. We are aware of that. I need to speak to Transport Scotland about changing the signage on the trunk road for the car park, and I think we need to maybe look at the signage within the car park as well, to try and kind of make it better. One of the things that was muted at the Caithness committee meeting I was just in was that, you know, maybe potentially putting a little A4 poster sized sign up about how the money is allocated within the area, to kind of give people a better idea that some of it is, you know, putting a better onus on the fact that some of the money is spent locally.
Okay, yeah,
to try and encourage it.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, Ross, maybe I could just come in there. That kind of touches on a couple of the questions that I had for you at the end there anyway, but still didn't totally understand from your explanation there why Ardboney car park would be minus £350, and maybe that's something you could send out to us. But I'd also, one of my questions was obviously that the area committee gets 50% of income after costs. So, you know, perhaps members could see what the costs are, you know, and the total income.
Yeah, I can
for
send
all the car parks, and that would let us, you know, have a better idea of that. And also, I mean, just on Ardboney car park itself, I mean, we have actually spoken to you before, and I know you may be stretched and all the rest of it, but the signage is a disaster. We've still got free parking signs up pointing people to Ardboney car park, and that's been pointed out months and months ago, and nothing's been done about it. And then we wonder why people are not paying when it says free car parking. And I mean, to be honest, I mean, when the invitation to pay machine was put there, it had been agreed at area committee a long time before that. It took a while to get it done. The invitation to pay machine went in. There was no consultation with anybody when it went in. Nobody knows. I mean, the doctor's surgery is in that car park as well. It's quite a complicated situation. So I'm assuming that there's a certain amount of bays that would not be expected to pay because people are attending the doctor's surgery. There's EV charging bays in that car park. We are to get a black waste disposal unit in that car park. So I would ask that perhaps, whether it be yourself or some of your team, could maybe come down, maybe meet members in the car park, and we could look at a way forward that the car park could be properly regulated. You know, supposing it has to be re-white lined, there's proper consultation with the doctor's surgery, proper consultation with local people, so people can understand what exactly is happening in that car park, and obviously take down the free car parking signs.
Yeah, so we can certainly do that. I can certainly, if members want to, you know, have a conversation about a suitable date, then I can arrange to come down and see us. The car park's invitation to pay, so there is no kind of splitting off bays for the doctor's surgery. It's just a case of all of the bays are open, and you know, people. I'm not sure that'll be acceptable to local members, Ross, but certainly that's something we can talk about. But that's because it's invitation to pay, so they don't have to pay. If you want to regulate the car park and make it mandatory payment, at that point we could look at how we can handle the doctor's surgery. But at the moment it's invitation to pay, so we don't need to hold off bays for the doctor's surgery unless they've got bays that are only theirs. Because nobody needs to pay, nobody's going to get ticketed for not paying. Whereas if it was a regulated car park with mandatory payment, you would need to look at how you would handle the doctor's surgery, because obviously you don't want locals having to pay for the doctor's surgery. So with it being invitation to pay, you don't have the need to split off bays. We could always put in some that are, you know, if you want a couple of bays for the doctors, that so they can get a space, we can look at that. And mark perhaps that's something we could do if we could, you know, if we could through Lewis maybe arrange, you know, a meeting that we could have on site with members, and then we could look at the way forward.
Councillor Coburn, did you want to come in there?
Yes, thank you very much, Ross. I think just going back to what Councillor Logan was saying, I think it would be really useful to see the actual total income, then the running costs, and then what the profit is as well. I'm really intrigued as to the high profits from Carbridge and the low income from Granton, which is always really busy. So I think it'd be really useful, because I think we need to maximise any take that we can. The other thing I absolutely support is getting the data with our shared car parks with Forest and Lands Scotland. I think that's imperative. Regarding, very briefly, and this is not for area committee, but I think just a piece of history, there was an extensive consultation with the manager from the practice manager from Kingussie. So there is documentation there about what was required for the practice. So before we catch up, I think it would be helpful if we look at that documentation. I should have it somewhere in mind, because I was involved in that as well. And we've also got it may be worth considering where we're at with the Space Street car park as well, where that sits, because that's potentially income generating too. So I think it would be helpful to meet with members, Chair, if you're happy to.
Absolutely. If Ross or Lewis can liaise them, perhaps that's something we could do after a word meeting or something, if that fitted the diaries.
Happy to take that forward, Chair. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, Ross, thank you very much for the report and for attending today. Good to see you, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon if we can have this wee meeting in Kingussie. That would be great.
No problem. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you very much, Ross. Members, item 10 are the minutes. Minutes are circulated for noting of the area committee held on the 4th of August 2025. These were approved by the council on the 18th of September 2025. I don't think we have any other VOCB anyway, so it just remains for me to thank Lewis and Rachel and all officers and members of other services who attended today, and you members for your attendance today, and enjoy the rest of the day. That's your meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.